So my name is Dana Bourne. I'm actually a retired Brigadier General in the United States Air Force. Served 30 years in the Air Force, 4 more if you count time as a cadet at the Air Force Academy. It's basically the profession of my life. I just retired almost now a year ago, and I've been teaching as a lecturer in public policy at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government, mostly in the leadership, management, decision-making area, focusing mostly on authentic leadership recently.
Okay, so talk to me a little bit about what your definition of authentic leadership is.
That's a great question. The author of the book True North on authentic leadership actually defines it in the book True North and has backed away from that, I think, recently to say it's more important that people who are on a journey to be authentic leaders come up with the definition. But he started with talking about compassion as a part of authentic leadership. I think looking at your life in an integrated way of who you are is part of that, obviously relationships. But I think the back and way, it's mostly who are you, what are your life stories, how do they frame you in terms of your values, your motivations, your purpose ultimately, how you lead and how you empower others to lead.
What kind of an impact has that kind of material had on your own leadership?
It's actually crystallized, if you can believe this. I've been part of leadership for my whole life, right? Developing leaders. I retired as the provost or the dean of the faculty at the Air Force Academy for my last 9 years, working to develop other leaders, developing myself. Authentic leadership has helped me find and refine my story and my true north in terms of what is really my purpose. And it's helped me focus a little bit more in terms of what are the things that I just can't help myself from doing that are my true passions, and how do I kind of be true to that in the decisions that I make, what I do, what I don't do. Ultimately, I was able to figure out that my life story has always been about developing other people and helping ensure that people reach their fullest potential as best as I can. Teams, organizations, now at the Kennedy School thinking about more in terms of societies. And that goes back to my own personal story of struggling through a learning disability when I was younger and feeling like people invested in me to ensure I wasn't left behind and that I reached my fullest potential. And it's really been all of what I've been excited about my entire life. But it came to me going through this, what does it mean to be an authentic leader? Who am I as an authentic leader? How do I lead and help others lead as an authentic leader? It's really given me great focus and more energy and excitement towards what it is that maybe I can do with my life and legacy.
And where do you see coaching fitting in at this point in your career?
What I value coaches, and I value coaches because I think it's really an investment in the thing that I care about, of helping people reach their fullest potential. It's based upon positive psychology, which I think is just something that has been integral in my own journey and how people have helped me. And I think I see the evidence of that in how it helps other people, particularly women. I think sometimes we're the toughest on ourselves.
Oh yeah, that would be correct.
and so I think coaching does that. One of the things that I'm going to talk about today is how coaching has traditionally been thought of as part of the leader human capital development, and the importance of leadership, more of the social capital, because organizations are getting flatter, because power and communication is getting more interconnected because of how organizations, even the military, operates. I think coaching, the future of coaching is building upon leader development, and particularly in the area of character as well. Who are you? And also the social aspect of the leadership interconnectedness. And there's a lot of evidence that indicates, we're moving much more away from the star leader and more into what I would call a constellation of leadership.
Yeah, we're also, I think, moving more into the idea that the leader has to go inside themselves and develop self-management in a way that I'm sure you never learned in school. I certainly never did. And that's now coming to the fore as crucial.
That's a very true statement, and I think that ties to what we were talking about in terms of authentic leadership. The world right now, the Marine Corps has a word for it called the VUCA world, of the volatile, uncertain, chaotic, complex, and uncertain. And that VUCA, or ambiguous is the last. I should start over so you can
Close enough, no.
VUCA, is the volatile, uncertain, complex, chaotic, and ambiguous world of the 21st century. And in that kind of uncertainty, people really look for the rudder, they look for the stability, what can they grab onto? And authentic leadership is a bit about, the rudder and the centerboard and the, how do you, as I said for my own personal journey, how do you find that to navigate to your true north? And I think organizations, that's true as well, because it's just as VUCA world for organizations and for collectivities of people, organizations, teams to operate in as well.
And I think there's also, I was talking with another presenter earlier, that individuals and people on teams have much more capacity to sort of suss out what's honest and suss out what's true. And we really, I think, are learning a respect for that and a valuing of the fact that that is fact.
It is, and I call it the scratch and sniff test, and that's what's so fascinating about, part of authentic leadership is embracing your vulnerability. And when you find out that, if you're trying to, live this public life and private life, or you've got these compartmentalizations going on in terms of your persona, that's your resume, and all these qualities that are listed on your resume, and then there's the things you say to yourself and the other parts that
they're going in opposite directions.
They go in opposite directions, and when you pull that together, and when people actually hear and see who you are authentically, it's sometimes those vulnerabilities. Brene Brown talks about it in Daring, I think, Daring Greatly. She says, what makes people vulnerable makes them beautiful. Executive session after executive session, when I do a competing narratives exercise where people share those sides of the stories, they always say they walk away out of that conversation really trusting and actually find the part that's the part most people don't know as inviting and inspiring, and trust goes up when they hear about people's other story.
Who do your students tend to be primarily?
I have so many different levels of students. I came out of the undergraduate environment at the Air Force Academy. We have all our graduates graduate with a Bachelor of Science degree. And now I'm teaching primarily graduate students at the Kennedy School in two different programs. I teach entry-level Masters in Public Policy students who have usually about 3 to 6 years experience. Some of them are already doctors, lawyers, but they're getting a policy degree, a lot of international. In the spring, I teach a course in authentic leadership, which are more to the mid-careers. They tend to have a bit more experience, so maybe 13 to 17 years experience. And I also teach in a myriad of executive programs in, I think, 6 different executive programs that we offer.
You're not too busy, huh? Retired. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting, but also because of being in the government sector and recognizing how important other sectors are becoming, the nonprofit sector and also the corporate sector, the for-profit, and how people are partnering together across sectors for common good and added value. I'm actually serving on a corporate board now as well, and consulting for the Authentic Leadership Institute. So the types of people I have a chance to help, I like to say help soar, because that's an Air Force way of helping them reach new heights.
And you light up yourself when you talk about that. You just do.
It is my purpose statement, actually, when I discovered my true north, rooted in who I've always been, but really crystallizing that, is joyfully serving, so SEW, bringing people together, might soar. And so the soaring part is actually part of it, helping people to reach, helping groups, helping organizations, helping societies reach higher levels.
It's wonderful. Where do you see the leadership work going? What are the cutting edges?
One of the cutting edges I'd like to see, and I am starting to see, is in the area of character development. Even in the military right now, we have somewhat of a crisis of character, in that the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff chartered the military to start focusing even more on character qualities for promotion. And a lot of that comes out of issues of failure in character that has significant consequences to all levels, to people and to organizations and to national security. Whether it's missile silo officers cheating on an evaluation, or senior officials who are getting bribes in contract deals, or with officers taking advantage of other, or more senior people taking advantage of more junior people, in many ways. And so I'd like to see there's so much leadership and impacts of leadership on outcomes research, but not as much on issues of character and virtue, that I think adds significantly, even more so now, at all levels of an organization. Most apparently at the senior levels.
And it circles back again to the point that the leaders have to be continually developing themselves and continually exploring themselves.
Yes, that's another area you just made me think about when I heard you say that I think there's a lot of work in having a learning or a growth mindset. I know Carol Dweck's work is very powerful out of Stanford. I think more about that, because just that thought process is the first part of people growing, is right, that belief in your ability to, or that something's not fixed. If someone believes that leaders are born, not made, that limits them. Or if you're in that field and you're not treating people, you're picking people that you think are leaders and those that aren't. How are we really ensuring that we're providing opportunity and growth and belief that in others that they can develop?
One thing that caught my eye in the description of your presentation for today is the title, Aim High, Aim Higher. Can you speak to that just a little?
Yes, I had a couple of failed attempts at titles, and Carol Kaufman said, you need something more edgy and more you. And Aim High, Aim Higher gets at the next level of excellence, right? But it comes out of my Air Force background. Aim high has been a motto for the Air Force, and as we emerged from air to space, we used the term aim high, aim higher. And I just thought it was kind of catchy, having been just newly retired from the Air Force, and really to talk about something like transformational leadership being not enough, that it's important, but it's not, there's more.
There's no end point, like
Exactly.
There isn't in space.
Correct.
Yeah,
So let's push it up.
I love it.
Yeah.
I can't resist. What took you to the military and the Air Force in the first place?
Oh, wow, that ties back into my life story a little bit. But while I was in high school, I was an athlete and an honor student, and worked very, very hard. Was following an older sister, had a younger brother coming up behind me, and I was looking at financial issues for my family, and I was a middle child, and I heard about the academies through athletics, and I initially thought, wow, my dad had spent some time in the Coast Guard, maybe I should go to the Coast Guard Academy. I missed their deadline. They said there's these other academies. I started looking around, and the Air Force Academy particularly was trying to build up their women's athletics program. I happened to be a distance runner, and so was able to get a congressional appointment, and I got on an airplane for the first time the day, a commercial airplane. I had been flying with a flight instructor most of my high school. I was part of the Air Explorers, the co-ed, yep. And I got on a commercial airplane for the first time the day I graduated from high school, started basic training the next morning.
Oh my goodness.
So I didn't come up through wanting to fly in the Air Force. It wasn't wanting to join the military. I believe I was always service-oriented because the strong Campbell interest inventory I took when I was in high school said I should either go to the Peace Corps, the military, or the ministry. So I think the military and the Peace Corps are fairly similar in that the military really wants peace. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very heartening to someone like me who knows very little about the current military to hear the level of advancement that's going on and the level of awareness that you're projecting.
It's interesting because a lot of people think in the military, I even had some senior people that came out for programs at the Air Force Academy, and they said, why do you all focus so much on leader and leadership development? Because in the military, don't you just senior people tell junior people what to do and they do it? And I thought, ooh, let's, yeah, you know.
There's the problem. There's the perceptual problem.
There is. Yeah. So.
Just one other question. If you were to talk to, our members tend to be well-seasoned mid-career or later career, second career professionals who've got a basis either in the business world or the psychology world and are more newer to coaching. What kind of advice would you give somebody that was coming in across that divide?
Wow. I guess always stay focused on what is your why. You know, Simon Sinek has a book, Start With Why, which I think is really important. Why is it, you know, that you're entering into this venture, or why is it that you care about coaching, and stay centered on that.
I want to put little highlights around care. It's really good. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. It was like we were having coffee together.